Hello, everyone. It's not Sunday. It's Wednesday today. It's a bit unusual for us to be so like webcasting or broadcasting live on a Wednesday instead of a Sunday. But I hope you're all well and welcome back to Ask the Drummer. It's been 3 weeks without Ask the Drummer. It's like 3 weeks of not talking to awesome drummers. For me, it's just really, really tough because I do love talking to drummers, as you know. So today I'm really grateful that our special guest was able to come on Ask the Drummer on a Wednesday. I know it's a weekday, but he's here, and I'm just gonna. He's I have to say he's a well loved musician. I know it for a fact because when I was in Glasgow at the time, I've heard people sort of like saying how brilliant he is and how wonderful he is. So I know that. But yeah, so let's welcome on Ask the Drummer our special guest, Stuart Kid. Hello, oh no, I should say Stu. Hello, Stu.
Well, either or. I've been called a lot worse. So we're good. How are you?
How are you? I mean, I
I'm
mean, I mean, I mean, it would have said that you're all well loved because do you know when I went to see you? Oh, well, I wasn't really. I didn't know that you were going to be in Paisley.
neither did I until that night. True.
But when I found out, and then I sent you a text. But anyway, so I was sat there, and there's a lady that sat next to me, and I heard her so like tell her friend that, oh, I love Stuart Kid, and I'm like,
Was
oh,
that my
that's.
mum? No. Yeah, he's well loved in Glasgow by his mum. Well, I think
And
me and Ruthie. I think it was Ruthie, wasn't it? Blonde hair. Ruthie.
yeah, I think
I have
that's
a feeling it's more than mutual. I love that lady a lot.
yeah, and their friend Sonny was there as well. So yeah, I
Yeah.
got to meet them because they were at Straven to
Yeah.
see McHad as well. So yeah, they're lovely, lovely people in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Also, I've heard some of the people say, "You're how adorable you are." So
Again, you've been speaking to my mum.
so
That's awful nice of
that,
you to say.
well, that description actually is from Kiori. I'm sure you know
Oh yeah.
Kiori.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
As
yeah.
well. So yeah.
She's the
So
best actor I've ever encountered.
I have to say thank you so much for getting me into that gig in Paisley.
Oh,
Because
pleasure. I'm just glad I saw the message when I did. Because
yeah,
I'm terrible for phone. They just the phone goes off all the time, and I'm just like, I'll see what that is later on or whatever. I just happened to pull it out of my pocket, and it was really lucky that I saw the message because it was maybe about 20 minutes or something, wasn't it, before we were supposed to go on
yeah,
stage? I'm stuck outside. And I was like, well, I can't,
no,
that's not an option. You've come all this way. We're going to get you in.
it was such an amazing gig because it was sold out. I mean, I did try to find a ticket, but I think it's been postponed for a few. I think it was like a couple of times it was supposed so like it was
Sure.
postponed for a couple of times. So yeah, so it was sold out, and I'm really, really thankful.
Yeah.
And also, I wanted to say thank you to Douglas Stewart for the link up
Oh,
because
you go. Right. Okay. So it was through Douglas, right?
yeah, because I saw Douglas being interviewed in another sort of like podcast, which is based in Manila. It's
Mm-hmm.
called It's All About New Wave, and I asked like who's the drummer of BMX Band because I
List of about 10 there, I think, probably, but that's nice that he chose me.
and he said that it's you, and then he gave me your contact details,
Mm.
and I'm really glad that you said yes to ask the drummer. So thank you
Well,
so
not often people want to talk to me, so it's you've got to take that opportunity when it comes.
much. Oh. Right. So let me just say hello to our friends who've joined us. Rob Jones in Liverpool. He's the drummer of the High Five,
Oh, cool.
and Wahid as well. He said afternoon all, and you Lynch. He said
Shove.
yeah,
No way.
yeah, bash.
Good job.
That's what he said. And Graham Marsland in Stockport, where I am, he's also said hello, and Stu on the late lunch break, so dropping in for a bit.
Nice.
So yeah, so good. Before we actually sort of like ask you about your drumming career,
Mm.
I just wanted to ask you
Great.
how was the gig with Teenage Fan Club last Saturday in
Yeah,
Mercer?
last Saturday. Yeah, it was quite something. Most definitely one of those dream boxes ticked. You know, I've loved those guys since I was about 18. I think it was a couple of friends of mine that I'd not seen for a few years and sort of hooked up with again. A good bit older than me, and they they were like, "Do you know these guys?" And I was like, "No, I've never heard them." And they played me. The first one was maybe 13. They put on 13, and that was it. It was just one of those instantaneous. Fucking hell!
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's afternoon, isn't it? This is what I said. Wow, these guys are amazing. Um, and that was it. And yeah, I've just loved them ever since. So all of a sudden, to like 10, when was it, Saturday? So it was maybe like 10 days ago or something like that. I mean, I know the guys now, having just sort of been involved in various bands, and I've played with Norman in a few different bands, and I played with Raymond, and I played with Francis, and I played with Eros as well.
Yeah.
So I kind of know them all from other projects. Um, so Norman just sent me a message. He said, "Listen, Dave can't do it. Steve can't do it. Are you about?" And so I wasn't going
Yeah.
to say no to that. You know.
Yeah. But
So
you didn't play drums though, did you?
no, I was on the
No.
bass, which is an instrument that I can play the bass. I have a bass, and I love playing the bass. But in terms of being a bassist in a band, that hasn't happened since the first time I joined the BMX Bandits. I was playing the bass, but that was maybe for about a year, and then I started playing the drums. So that I kind of joined the Bandits as the bass player. And by that point, I had never played the bass. They were just like, "Look, there's two positions here. You can play the keyboard or the bass." And I thought the bass was the easy one because I could play the guitar. So I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
I could probably do this." And I actually think, in retrospect, I wish I'd said the keyboard, because I'd love to be able to play the keyboard better than I can now. And I think if I'd done it back then, I probably would be able to play the keyboard better than now. So it was the easy option, and it was one that I probably, looking back, I wish I'd said the keyboard. But on the same token, it got me playing the bass, and I suppose in a sort of convoluted way, it got me playing the bass with Teenage Fan Club on Saturday. You
Yeah.
know, so
And that's like Jerry Love's part that you did, which is like
mostly Jerry's. I mean, he's obviously been the bass player in that band up until just recently, but the
yeah.
last album was Dave McGowan, uh, who is as a bass player on another planet from anybody, and having to work out those lines. I was just like, yeah, okay, I'm going to need some help here. You know, oh man, and that's not to play down Jerry either, because Jerry's bass lines are incredible. Jerry's bass lines are a bit like Paul McCartney in that he can sing them very much,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I always think is an amazing thing, you know. And so I
Well,
had a lot of fun actually, because I know the songs just from like
yeah.
having listened to them forever. I could probably play them backwards on the drums, and I can strum along on the guitar with most of them as well. But I've never actually sat down and played any of them on the bass. I don't treat, like, if I'm playing in the house or whatever, I'll be making something up, or I'll be sitting recording something, writing something. I'm not one of these guys that sits down and learns other people's songs unless I have to,
Yeah.
you know. So all of a sudden I was like, right, I've got 10 days to work these songs out, and some of them were in different keys from the record and stuff like that as well. So that was a bit of a challenge. But yeah, like I say, some of the other songs, like Dave plays a lot of, it just moves all the time. It's always going somewhere. It doesn't quite often just kind of stay on the root or stay somewhere. And quite often he doesn't play the root. He'll play like the third or the fifth in the chord or something like that.
Yeah.
So there was a fair amount of, you know, probably got a wee bit thinner on the top in the last couple of days, you know. Great. I loved it. It's been a massive learning curve. and a really enjoyable one. Really
Yeah.
enjoyable. And
Oh,
the thing is, as well, it was just one of those things where it'd be really easy. And I mean, I was nervous. I'm not going to say that I wasn't. Of course, I was nervous. But what helped, was the fact that everybody in that band are just like the greatest guys on earth. They just have a laugh, and everyone's really friendly, and it was really easy to be part of. You know,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
no. I mean, there was a few clangers. I'm not going to lie either. There was a few times where I was just like, Christ, what is that? Do you know? And I turned around, they're all laughing. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
The odd tenor from the wage at the end, right enough. After, but I'm only kidding. I wouldn't do that.
well, for me, I've only just saw like recently. I'll say fairly recent. It's only after I had Paul Quinn on Ask the Drummer that I really got into Teenage Fan Club. But most especially when I heard Norman Blake sort of like sang Planets in Paisley that time a few weeks ago. And I asked you this earlier. So you did Planets last Saturday.
Yeah, we did Planets. Yeah,
Yeah. It's just such an amazing song.
it's really beautiful, isn't it? It's really great.
It's yeah, it's really beautiful. But anyways, yeah. So and also you mentioned I didn't realize this, but I thought it's Euros, so it's Eros. Is that how you pronounce it?
Eros, yeah, everyone makes that mistake because it just looks like the word euros as
Yeah,
a
that's what
currency. And I think most people that don't know him or are very familiar with the Welsh language would probably, I mean, I think he's used to it, but yes, Eros.
Eros. Okay. So,
More like the mint chocolate Aero.
okay. Not euros, not the money. It was like for
No,
Eros.
Aero. Yeah.
Well, anyways, so welcome to Ask the Drummer. I mean, it's like long before I asked to like welcome you here, but
Well,
welcome to Ask the Drummer. Episode 53 is all about you, Stuart Kid.
all about me.
So we're gonna start from like the very beginning. I forgot to ask you earlier on. What are you from Bells Hill yourself, or
No,
where were
no.
you born?
I was born. I was born in Glasgow, but I was brought up in a wee village called Killarn, which is, if you can kind of draw a triangle between Stirling and Glasgow and Loch Lomond, that's a really bad
Yeah.
triangle. But if you can think of a triangle there, Killarn's kind of right in the middle of it. Just a wee village, very unassuming, quite affluent actually. There's a lot of really rich people that live there, but we weren't one of them.
Oh,
It's like a wee sort of council estate right in the middle of the village, surrounded by big houses, and that we were in the council estate, which I always like to remind people, because when you say it, people that know Killarn, like, oh, aye, you must be a bit well off. And it's like, sorry to disappoint you, pal. Not gonna happen you a tenner anytime soon.
so what was it like growing up in that area? Especially so, like the music scene. Is there like a music scene in that?
No, it's too wee for a music scene. Although the school I went to was quite musical, really encouraging. Like my music teacher, for example. Actually, I didn't even take music at school. I hated. I didn't like it because it was all like, you get 2 years at school before you have to choose your subject. In the first 2 years, you just have to learn all that classical stuff. What does rallentando mean? And pick out whatever, read music and pick out the notes. I just couldn't really bothered with that. I just,
Yeah.
and by that point as well, I hadn't really I was more into football, which I guess probably most people from that age, from that grew up in that kind of place, were into as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it wasn't till after in third year when I hadn't chosen music. I just remember by this point I was like really heavily into Nirvana. That was my thing. Everyone in our sort of wee group of pals got really into Nirvana through a guy called Gavin Monroe, he had this tape, and I'll
Yeah.
always remember him playing it. We were going somewhere and we were sitting in the back of his mum's car, and he was like, "Listen to this," and he put it on. And it was just one of those moments, just like, what is that? Incredible. So it all started with Gavin Monroe, really. Do you know what I mean? He was the first guy that kind of he was like, listen to this.
Yeah.
And it just kind of went from there. So I just remember being at school and walking past one of the music mobiles one day at lunchtime, and there was people. I just heard drums, My big brother was a drummer. He was a pipe band drummer. So always, I guess it was probably somewhere in my DNA. You know, my dad,
Yeah, yeah.
he's not a drummer, but he always loved, you know, getting the cushions out and the wooden spoons and the pots and stuff like that. I think when he was younger, at least that's what Mum always says, you know. And it's funny that both me and my brother have turned out to be drummers. But yeah, just walked into the music mobile and this wee guy was like, "Oh, do you want a shot?" And I was like, "Well, yeah. What did you do?" And he just kind of showed me, and I sat down, and there was one of those weird things where I could just do it. You know, I was like instinctively, I kind of knew what.
Yeah, yeah.
As soon as I sat down and did it, I was like, "Oh, this is great." And that was me. I never did anything else after that other than just want to play the drums. Every
Did,
lunch
did
I
you,
spent going into the music mobile. The teacher
yeah.
at one point came to me and he was like, "Listen, uh, these rooms don't close. The school finished at 3:30. And he was like, these rooms don't close till 5 o'clock. The cleaners come in and lock the door at 5 o'clock. If you want to stay on for a couple of hours after school, I don't have a problem with that."
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, Mr. Finnerty, lovely guy, and he also at one point came to me at one point, and he was like, "Listen, I've just got this catalogue through, and I can get cheap musical equipment, and I can get you a
Oh,
4-track for like 100 quid. Do you want me to get you a 4-track?" So I went home and said to my mum, "Listen, I can get this thing and I can record songs on it, and I can."
yeah,
And
yeah.
my dad they've always encouraged anything. You know, they've never been like, "You must do this. You have to go and do that." They were like, "Well, if that's what you want to do, that's fine." So mum gave us the money to get this 4-track. Mr. Finnerty ordered it, and that was it. I was fully immersed in the world of making music at that point. You
Oh,
know,
wow. Well, did you have any drumming lessons at all, or is it just from school, or no?
not even in school, didn't get any lessons in school. As I say, I didn't take it as a subject. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, I just used to. Do you know? I don't really know. I just used to watch because the thing is, as well, at lunchtime there was like wee groups of guys would hang about, and you would always have a shot, and then you would give someone else a shot. You would just kind of sit there quite impatiently waiting for it to be your shot again. So when you were doing that, I was just watching what they were doing, just
yeah.
absorbing stuff, you know, and then yeah, but no lessons, just sort of picked it up, and then aye. The thing is, as
So
well,
it's,
what were
yeah,
you going to say?
you're a natural. You're a natural then. So it's like, because sometimes I often wonder, it's got to be in you, like being a drummer. It's got to be in you in the first place. I mean, yes, of course you can have lessons and
Yeah,
stuff, but it's
I
got to be
agree.
like a natural thing.
I agree because you can't teach like you can teach someone how to play a pattern. It's just following a series of things you do with your limbs, essentially. Uh,
Yeah,
but you can't teach them how to do it well. There's a thing which I can't even explain to you. Feel, they call it. Do you know what I mean? No, he's got a good feel, that guy. I said, what does that mean? What does that mean? But you can kind of
yeah.
tell. You know, it's like the guy from ACD. Was it Phil Rudd? Was that his called? The guy from ACDC? Very basic. Most of the time it's a bum da bum da bum da. It's hard to do that really well. Anyone can do that, but it's hard to do it really well and like make. Again, I can't explain it because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and um, yeah, and this is the thing. I don't have any sort of technical knowledge or anything like that.
Yeah.
Even just knowledge. You know, if someone's like, "Whoa, what kind of wood is your drum kit made out of?" I was like, "I don't know, painted green." Like that's all I can tell you. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. You get asked these
So,
questions. Like, what size are those cymbals? I was like, I don't know, but that size, the size you're looking at, I've no idea.
so it's the drums really is your first instrument that you got into.
Yeah,
Because
drums.
I know that you're multi instrumentalist and you can play anything, but the drums is really what your first, shall we say, first love or something.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah. And the
and
only reason I got into playing the guitar was because obviously wanted a drum kit in my house. And as I say, we lived in a wee council house, and there was old people on either side and neighbours.
so it's
Uh,
really loud and
we can't really get you a drum kit, so they got me a guitar. And I was like, right, well, I'm going to learn that then. And by that point, I'd got into the Beatles, you know. So it was like, okay, well, I want to know how to do that, you know.
yeah,
So I went
yeah.
from trying to play the drums to Nirvana to trying to play the guitar to the Beatles.
Oh wow. Well, let me ask you. Oh, David Chambers, who's the drummer of a band in Preston. He said Painted Green. It's like he thought I was really brilliant when you just said that the drum is painted green. So what was your first proper band then?
The first proper band. So like it's school band, you mean? Like going right the back, the very first time I
Yeah,
joined the
so,
group of
yeah.
musicians. Yeah, it was. What were we called? There's a couple of names. The one that I seem to remember was Magenta's Lips was the name of the band. And that
Wow.
was two girls, yeah, and it was two girls, Amber Lavery and Rachel Owens, the two girls at school. Uh, and I think I can't remember if so I've
Hello? Hello?
hello. I don't know what
Yeah,
happened.
yeah, all right. That's fine. We can hear you now.
The internet got fed up with me talking. So
I
what?
know it's
I mean, doesn't
right.
this boy doesn't get out much, obviously, does he?
But anyways, yeah, so you were talking about your first band, which is Magenta's Lips. That's a
Magenta's
really
Lips.
nice
Yeah.
name, yeah.
It's a cool name. That was Amber. Amber
Yeah.
was a cool girl. She always had different coloured hair. Most weeks she came into school with different coloured hair, and she was a bit of a rebel. Like never had her tie on properly and all that kind of stuff. And she's kind of cool. And she used to hang about the music room too. So we just sort of joined the band and yeah, jammed out from there. And I'm pretty sure Dave Towers. So he's always like I call him the chief. He's been like my best pal since school. I think he was part of that too. And yeah, that was it. Well, it was like Nirvana covers. I seem to remember doing like rocking in the free world as well. In fact, there was another girl. There was a girl, Joanne Healy. It was mostly girls, and it was like a kind of rock sort of grunge group.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. And then I was a few school bands that didn't last long, of course. And then yeah, just joined another band called Orange Frank, which came from a boy who was like. I mean, you can call your band anything you want. I mean, Pink Floyd's a really crap name. You can just call it something like Orange Frank if you want. We were like, it's a great name. So Orange Frank, we were in, yeah, we had Orange Frank as well. And that was all the rock and roll stuff, which was right up my street. Chuck Berry and Little Richard and all that kind of thing. Playing as fast as possible. It was great. We used to play, we did do a few gigs, and I remember like Dave playing with like a pair of flippers and a snorkel on and stuff like that. We all just used to dress up like weirdos and just like run about on the stage and stuff. It was cool. But
But you
yeah, it was
used to
always
do
there.
only sorry, you used to do only covers. You didn't write your own songs or
Well, there was a bit of
did
that.
you?
I think we had like one or two of our own songs by that point, but it certainly had nothing to do with me. I don't think. I think that was mostly them that would come in. I wasn't really. I hadn't got there by that point. I just wanted to hit things.
Yeah.
I left all the fancy stuff up to them, you know. But that came later on. That came once I started playing the guitar and I learnt a couple of Beatles tunes. It was a very instinctive thing to be like, I'm going to write some stuff. And I don't remember even having that decision. It was almost all of a sudden I was like, I can play the guitar now, so I'm writing songs. Do you know, there
Wow.
was, I'm going to write a song today. I don't remember that happening. It just happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Um Simon McCaig said, "How these two?" So
Missed him.
that's Simon. And Paul Ryan said, "Stu broke the
Oh,
internet there." So,
I did break the internet. See, he knows what I'm like. Once I start, I'll stop.
well, you've been on so like loads. I was so like looking you up on Discogs, and there's so many bands connected to you and so many collaborations that you did. But I'm gonna ask you first of all about BMX Bandits because that's how I found out about you from
That's
Douglas
how I
Stewart.
found out about me too.
Yeah. So when did you join BMX Bandits? Because
So that would have been,
you're not part of the original sort of like lineup, were
no, I
you?
was
Or you
four.
do you?
I was four when the BMX Bandits started, I think.
Oh, you. Oh,
Douglas
right.
I only know that because Douglas used to love saying that on stage. Stuart, he was four when this. We think we play like E102 or something like that. He was like, he was four when we released it. You know.
So when did you join?
So that was probably maybe 2003, possibly. I was at call. I went to college after I left school. I just sort of asked about for a couple of years. Worked in a plant nursery, which was great fun.
Yeah.
Love it, propagating shrubs, conifers, and stuff. And then once I was about 21, I decided that I should probably do something that's not just potting plants forever. Actually, that's a bit of a lie. I fell out with the boss and just careered out the driveway. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I'd working for the man, all that kind of stuff, you know. Then got home and started crying. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Oh my God. Decided to go to college. Again, it was my mum. She was like, why don't you go to college and do music, seeing as you didn't do it at school? So found the music course and did that. And Francis was a lecturer on the course. And Finlay also, who was in the BMX Bandits. They were a teenage fan club at the time, actually.
Yeah.
So Francis, in between the first year and the second year, there was all these kind of music modules. So like one of them was like a live performance module. You get put in bands with other students and you have to rehearse a set of songs and perform them. And I think either Finlay or Francis must have been like, oh, he's all right. Do you know what I mean? So Francis phoned me up in the summer holidays in between and asked if I would play with him. He'd had a solo project, Nice Man and the Bad Boys it was. Or just Nice Man at the time. And he was like, do you want to play the drums for me? I need to do this festival in Spain called Benicassim. I'd never heard of it. I'd never been out of the country before. I had to get a passport and all that to go and do it. Did that, and then I think a few months later, because he was the drummer in the BMX Bandits, that's when he phoned up and he was like, do you want to join the BMX Bandits? Obviously, we got on quite well. And that's when he was like, you can do the bass or the keyboard, because I play the drums, so you're no getting to play the drums. So that's how I joined the BMX Bandits with Francis, because by that point, Francis and Douglas were like the kind of they were like the kind of mainstays of that band. And the BMX Bandits has always been like a kind of evolving or revolving or both, if you like, lineup. So there's always been people just passing through all the time, and Douglas and Francis were the constants, you know. So they were just like, they hadn't played for a few years, they wanted to put a new band together again. So yeah, I could have been anyone, and they asked me.
You joined BMX Bandits not as a drummer, you joined as
The bass
a
player.
bass player. All right.
So I had to go and buy a bass. I had to get a passport and I had to buy a bass.
Oh, but that's really good of Douglas Stewart. So, like, tell me when I ask him who's the drummer of BMX Bandits, and he said, "Yeah, it's Stuart. Get him."
Well, that's the thing, because I played the bass for maybe, I don't know, maybe 2 years or 3 years. But again, in those 3 years, I think we only maybe played about 5 or 6 gigs. There wasn't a lot. And then Francis left. I think he just wanted to kind of concentrate a bit more on, obviously, the fan club thing. He was doing a lot more of that. But he was managing bands at this point. He was running his own record label. He had a lot of things going on. And I think just, it's one of those things in life. Something has to give. So he just wasn't doing that anymore. So at that point, it was an obvious solution. Well, you play the drums. Why don't you just be the drummer now? So I got back into playing the drums.
Yeah.
That was it.
Well, I've actually managed to find a CD of BMX Bandits, but it's the one that it's BMX Bandits in space. But I've just saw looking at the notes, and there's only one song that you're involved in, something. So
yeah, which I think is actually a remix. I had absolutely nothing to do with that record. That was later on.
Yeah,
so I maybe about 7 or 8 years or something, and then Douglas just wanted to shift things about, and everyone that was part of it at that point, he was like, I'm going to try other stuff. Much in the way that I guess when Neil Young has enough of Crazy Horse, he gets other people to do stuff. But it was one of those never say never sort of thing. I just want to do this kind of thing now, and there was no malice, there was no falling out, and it was always like, and maybe some people would sort of be like, "What is that? It is that But for me, it was like, well, we're just making music. That's cool. We're all still pals, and we'll maybe do something again soon or whatever. And I had loads of other things going on, and I've always kind of had that attitude. If someone's like, thanks, but we don't need you anymore. We're going to do something else. Well, that's cool. That's fine. And it was that case. 7 years or something went past again. and he was like, "Fancy making some music again?" I was like, "Yeah, why not?" So, and I think that's the thing with a lot of bands, particularly up here. I can't speak for anywhere else, but certainly in Glasgow, there's a big pool of people that everyone knows each other, and it's just that thing. You get
Yeah.
a phone call, it's like, "Do you fancy doing this?" "Yeah, okay," or "Nah," and
Graham
it's
said,
cool, whatever you decide.
yeah, well, Graham Maslin said to me that I should really find a copy of Forever because that's the one that you're most involved in.
That
That's
was
all like,
recorded in my bedroom. The whole thing we did in not here in my old flat. We had a
yeah,
flat for 10 years, my wife and I, before we moved here, and that whole thing was recorded in our flat. Just Douglas and me. A couple of
yeah,
tunes. I went away and recorded in Germany with Anton Newcomb for one of them. Uh, I think there's something in there with Sean Dixon maybe as well. He's done, but I could be wrong there. But the rest of it was recorded in my flat. All of it, the whole thing. So I
yeah,
pretty much played all the instruments. But that's not to say I wrote any of it as well, because Douglas, a lot of the time, had. I mean, there was things I was coming up with, but a lot of the time, Douglas would just be. He doesn't play instruments, but he's got an incredible musical mind. The way it works, he can
yeah,
arrange things and he can hear things in his head. And sometimes it could be like, I've got this melody, and I'd find a sound, and I'd be like, "What about this sound?" Or I'd just be messing about with something. He'd be like, "That's really cool. Let's do something with that." Or sometimes it was just really definite. He would send me a Morricone track, Morricone, a Morricone track, and be like,
yeah, yeah,
"Sound of this," or "I like the idea of this. Can we do something like that, or whatever?" And so yeah, he definitely had the vision, But I think that's the way he works, because I sat and I learnt a lot from when we did My Chain, which was the first one that Francis wasn't on. We recorded that, Davy Scott and me and Douglas, the three of us, and Davy was that guy. So I was just this wee guy, come in, do some drums, and I'd play guitar or whatever if they wanted, or mandolin or whatever. But I sat and just watched how Davy translated a lot of Douglas's ideas, and how Douglas responded to a lot of Davy's ideas, and how it all worked.
all right, yeah,
So
yeah,
I was basically an observer of a beautiful collaboration.
yeah, yeah,
I just sat there absorbing as much of it as I could. So that was really cool. So when it came to doing the Forever thing, and Douglas was like, "Do you want to make some?" We didn't start off with the idea of making an album. That wasn't an intention. We were just two pals arsing about at some point, and then after a while, it was like, "Douglas, we've got loads of songs here. We should maybe do something with this," and then we did.
yeah. Well, hopefully, I'll find a copy of that someday. I've got a question from Paul Ryan.
Okay.
Yeah, he said, "Do you have a specific pair of comfy shoes or slippers that you like to wear when playing the drums?" There you
There's that.
go.
No, they're new, because the last slippers I owned, I bought a pair of slippers myself about 2 years ago. I came home, put them on, black corduroy, and I quite liked them. And I put them on, and Daniela looked.
Oops, he's gone. That's how we went back again. I think it's so. Yeah, there you go. It's showing your comfy sort like
That's it.
shoes for
I
the
think
drums.
that's
That's all
enough
it
from
is.
him. Yeah.
But yeah. But I
Yeah.
also want to say hello to Rudy Blaney. Hey, just slid in
Ah,
and he
Ruthie.
just
Here
wants
she
to say
is.
hi. Yeah,
What's up,
she's the
girl?
she's the one that I met, and Sunny as well in Paisley. So thank you, Ruby. Right. So going back to BMX Bandits, I've only found out because of this that when I'm doing a bit of research that you actually played Shine On in 2017.
What's
And
Shine On? What's that?
Shine On in Minehead, do you know the Shine On Festival in
Oh,
Butlins in
yeah, yeah,
Minehead?
that's right.
I
Yeah.
can't because I was there. That was my first Shine On experience, and I can't remember seeing BMX Bandits. So like as
Well,
far
by the very fact that I had to ask you what that was, probably suggests that I didn't remember it either.
but I saw
That band, Shine On.
I saw a photograph. It's got Jim McCulloch in there with you as well, and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my god!
Mm.
So were you there as a drummer or were you
I would have been.
there?
Yeah, I'd have been playing the drums. Oh no, actually no. I was a guitarist at that point. Jim Gash was the drummer then. So I was the second guitarist in the BMX Bandits the second time round. So I played the bass for about 2 years, played the drums for maybe about 5 years, and then when I rejoined again and we
Yeah.
started doing the Forever thing and all the rest of it, that was when we started doing the live stuff. I was the understudy to Jim McCulloch.
All right. So
He's the real guitar hero in that lineup. I was just like,
yeah.
chords, I'm happy. You know,
But do you remember which stage did you which of the three, I think there were 3 or 4 stages at the time, did you
no,
play on? Because
no
were you
idea.
on the main stage
No,
or
no, I don't think so. I genuinely couldn't. I couldn't tell you. I have, I've two. Now that you've, as soon as you sort of triggered my memory of being at that festival, I've got two memories of that festival. One was going to see Embrace on the main stage. They were the last act, and
yeah.
being really disappointed with them. And I quite liked them when I was younger. That's probably just unscored me quite a lot of cool points there. But well, there you go. But I quite liked them, and they were rotten. And then the other memory was while watching Embrace, realizing that Steve Lamacq was standing beside me and thinking, I expected him to be really tall, and and he wasn't. I'm not slagging him off because I'm a wee toty as well. I mean, I have gone out. I've dressed as an Oompa Loompa for Halloween before, so I'm a wee guy. So it's almost like
Well,
I just wanted to be like, all right, mate, solidarity, we guys.
well, I remember 2017 Shine On. It's because the Orchids played in
Okay,
2017 Shine On.
okay.
So
I'm
they
not
would,
I'm afraid. I don't know
but,
who they are.
but I don't know why I didn't see so like BMX Bandits or so like part of the line. So I was like really shocked when I found out that you were there.
Yeah, do you know, it's kind of coming back to me now. I think we might have been in like, if it was like a pub or a bar or something like that. But again, I might be getting confused with a different,
Oh,
because I think there was another. Well, I mean, that's like a kind of nostalgia festival, isn't it? Those festivals are like for bands that,
yeah, yeah.
it's like the new up and coming bands kind of thing. And I think there was another one of them we did at some point. Like, I
But
could be wrong.
I remember Embrace. I remember Embrace when you so like said that. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
remember. I think I.
He spent the whole gig just like going like this and trying to get people. It's like, come on, enjoy yourself. I'll be the judge of that, mate. Singing tunes at least. Do you know what I mean? Oh, that's terrible.
Well, Ruthie said that Stu must have been undecided that weekend if he can't remember. So maybe.
Fair chance. A very fair
Well,
chance.
well, you have collaborated. Like I said, you have collaborated with so many musicians, and you so like lend your expertise to them and stuff. There's so many. I mean, we've had sort of like Eros Child and Snow Goose. I mean, Snow Goose is Jim McCulloch's. So,
Yeah,
are you actually a member of Snow Goose's
yeah,
band? Or,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I played the last. I think made three. Two are out, or is the third one out now? I'm not sure. No, because we only recorded it last year. Or was that the fourth? Crap.
All right.
But
Okay.
I've been in that band since the kind of incarnation of it, and that's got
Yeah.
Raymond from fan clubs in that group as well. It's a bit of an
All
all
right.
star.
Are you gonna?
Chris from Bern Sebastian plays the keys. Stevie Jones plays the bass, and of course, I mean Anna's as good a vocalist as you'll ever hear in your life.
Are you? Yeah. Are you gonna be sort of like joining them when they do a couple of gigs?
I think they're doing a lot of acoustic gigs. I don't think they're doing full band stuff. A lot of times
All
it's just
right. Okay.
Anna go out, but certainly when they decide to, yeah, I would like to. But again, a lot hinges on just what else is happening. It's like for all the bands that I've been involved in and playing and stuff like that, it's not my source of income. I have a real
Right.
job. Well, it's not really a real. Well, it is a real job, but I've always made money from music. I work in colleges and I work in a college now more than
Yeah.
ever. I did a lot of community work for kids and did a day down at university doing some live performance stuff, and So since I was about 25 or 26, all my income has been from music, but not a lot of it has been from gigging, if you like, being in
Oh,
bands,
right. Yeah. 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 Well,
unless I'm touring or something like that, you know. But yeah, it's
yeah.
not. I've not been able to sustain. It's not been able to just do that. I do
But
other
the
things.
enjoyment, though, being so like on stage and gigging and stuff, I'm sure that's worth more than. Well, I suppose it won't pay the bills, but
Yeah,
it's sort of like, yeah.
yeah, no, absolutely. I always try and do everything I can to play when I'm asked. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, there's a really good question from Kiori because she said that you are probably the best reliable multi instrumentalist in the Glasgow music circle. And her question is, how do you receive calls for help? And the second question is, how these collective work transfer into your creativity? So, like with Teenage Fan Club, how did you get the call for Teenage Fan Club?
yeah, well, that's the thing. Sometimes I wonder myself, why did they phone me? Because at the end of the day, uh, here's the thing. This is what I always say to when people, you know, I don't think I have, I'm not like kind of a virtuoso on any instrument. I can play quite a lot of instruments, but I don't think I can play any of them incredibly well. But it depends what you're thinking. It depends how you view that, because, for example, I do one of the things I've done for a few years is like not kind of drum lessons as such, because I couldn't be a drum teacher because I don't know enough about them. But it's kind of like I can show people things. I can show them how to do certain things. Do you know what I mean? But when it comes to actually explaining things technically, I don't have a clue. I can't. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah,
at least if I can, I do it in my language. I don't do it in a musical language. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of trying to convey that. But um, it's funny. I think probably, and it might actually be just from what Kaori said there. It maybe being reliable that gets me the work. People ask me because they know what they're going to get, and they know that I'll turn up, and uh, because I spent so much time being a session musician and learning from, and this probably feeds into the second question actually as well, is like having played with so many different people, you learn that you need to leave your ego at the door when you're a session player. Doesn't matter what, it's like if someone specifically wants a drum part or something particular, then you're getting paid to do it. You know what I mean? So if I'm playing a drum, quite often it'll be, you'll be, what do you want on this song? I'm not really sure. I just want drums. So you'll be playing something, and then if they turn in and say, "Well, I don't really like that. Can you try something else?" It's not your
yeah.
job to go. Wait a minute. I'm the fucking drummer here. You can't tell me.
Yeah.
You know. So it's like, okay, well, what is it you would rather, or will I try something else? And quite often they'll reference something. I would rather it sounded more like the Birds, or I would rather it sounded more like that Todd Rundgren song or whatever. So it's kind of my job to know those reference points and be like, okay, like this, and then it's yes or no, and it's that sort of thing. You know what I mean? And that
Yeah.
absolutely feeds into my creativity because quite often uh, I'll be absorbing things that I wouldn't have thought of doing. And then I'll go, oh, do you like my favourite drummers are people that aren't drummers? Paul McCartney, Elliott Smith, Todd Rundgren. I love those guys as drummers because they think of things that drummers wouldn't do. And that's really
Right.
cool.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really, I really like that. I think
Yeah.
listen to the drumming on like Something Anything, or like Elliott Smith's XO record or something like that. You're like, some of those drum fills, or just some of the thinking behind the arrangements. Like I wouldn't, as a drummer, I probably wouldn't have thought of that. And I like that. So I'm probably not like a kind of very technically, well, I'm not a technically minded or gifted musician. It is very instinctive, I think. I don't know. Does that make me sound like a twat? Maybe.
No, no, well, no, no, not. Well, you Lynch's got question: have the royalties from the Coast album not came in yet? I'm not actually sure what the Coast.
They're probably in Shug's pocket. Actually, maybe that's why Matty Joe lives in London now. The Coast. So the Coast were a band. I sort of cut my musical teeth, if you like, in between school and playing with, getting my opportunity, if you like, with
Yeah.
established bands like the BMX Bandits and stuff like that. In between that, I used to do a lot of pub gigs with two brothers, Marty Joe and Jerry Rogan, and they had this thing, the Coast. It was just like going about pubs, playing covers, guitar as well, going about various pubs locally, and just playing like the Laz and the Kinks and Crowded House
Oh,
and
right.
stuff
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
It was really cool, and I learned how to sing harmony, playing with those guys,
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
harmony. And then they started doing kind of more full band stuff, and that's where Shug comes in. Shug, uh, Shug asked me one night to play with. He was in a Led Zeppelin tribute act. They were called Black Dog. They were absolutely banging. And he asked me one night if I would help them out because the drummer couldn't do it or something like that. So I, for one night only, played in a Led Zeppelin tribute act. And Shug's a phenomenal bass player. He's like, he can do it. He can do everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was still to this day one of the best. I don't know if it's very grammatically correct, but the best funs I've ever had sitting behind a drum kit was doing that gig.
Wow.
I love Zeppelin. Love Zeppelin.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was magic.
Oh.
So
Well.
yeah, but no, they
Yeah.
haven't, Shug.
Well. I'm gonna ask you about this because this is actually a surprise for me. Because there's a South Korean artist called, is it Yeonjin?
Yoonjin.
Yeonjin, and
Mm.
I've never heard of her. This is what I like about Ask the Drummers. Like when I interview the drummers, I actually get to learn so many bands and musicians and artists. So Yeonjin, she sounds amazing, and the one that you did a song with her, which is It Doesn't Matter Anymore.
Oh
I
yeah,
thought that was so
records.
beautiful. That was just, it's absolutely amazing. So how did that come about? Because she's like doing so many songs with all these different Scottish musicians.
And then me.
And-
Well, but it's kind of, it just wasn't it? It's like a kind of at that point it was just like that all-star cast of people who were established, and then you're just like, what's he doing on that record?
so,
I think I
but
could probably answer that actually. So I played the drums on quite a lot of those songs. That was an album that we recorded in the same place, the studio with Davy Scott, where we did My Chain. And we went to South Korea. The BMX Bandits went to South Korea and did a couple of gigs. And we met Yeonjin. Her band was a support act. And they were cool people. So Yeonjin came over. There must have been some discussion between Douglas and Davey to get her over to make an album. And I wasn't part of any of that. So she came over to Scotland to record an album of Burt Bacharach songs. And
yeah,
we put a band together to record. And at the time, I didn't really have a proper job, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? I was only 23 or 24 and I worked in a kitchen. So it was easy enough for me to get time off. And they just asked if I would do it. So I went and played some drums on quite a few, that not all of them. I think Francis plays in a few of them as well. But did some drums uh, and probably just sort of absent-mindedly while they were doing vocals and stuff, just as I always do, just sort of sing harmonies and stuff and whatever. And I think she was just like, actually, I quite like your voice. Can you sing one as well? I'm just guessing that. Douglas would tell you the real story. Because I don't know. I'm just assuming that's why I ended up, that maybe she was just like, I maybe did a couple of harmonies or something like that on something, and she maybe just thought the blend of our two
yeah.
voices would be nice to sing with you. I don't know. I'm just assuming
No,
that was the reason.
it's just amazing because when you think of sort of like South Korean artists or bands, you always think of K-pop. I mean, that's what I think. It's like K-pop,
Yeah.
but she's
I
not
don't think
K-pop.
that existed back then. Because we're going back a good nearly 20
Yeah,
years.
yeah, yeah. This is more so
They
like
were amazing.
an indie one.
Yeah. And talking about virtuoso musicians, these guys were unbelievable. I remember just watching that band and just being like, whoa, what are they doing? That's amazing. You know, they were
Yeah.
really right on the money, and she was really cool. Just this,
Yeah, yeah. Well, she
uh,
sounds really lovely. I really
what?
enjoyed it. I listened to a lot of them on YouTube. Rudy said that Stu does the loveliest harmonies, which
No,
is, that's good.
one
And
prize, darling.
Paul Ryan was, he wanted me, he wanted to ask you, was Ringo the best drummer in the Beatles?
100%. It was, yeah. He was the best drummer not in the Beatles to sort of counter all that whole. He wasn't even the best drummer in the Beatles. He was also the best drummer not in the Beatles, as well as the best drummer in the Beatles. Talking
Yeah,
about feel, when we're talking about drummers with feel, just go and listen to the Beatles. That's the
yeah,
drummer with feel. That's how you play drums with feel. I
yeah.
always think when Strawberry Fields Forever, to me, always sounds like someone trying to swim through a jar of treacle. Da-dum, boom, 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 da-ga. So
Wow.
just like
That's,
it's like just someone trying to get through
yeah.
a jar of treacle, and it's beautiful. Have you
Oh.
ever tried swimming through treacle? I
Nope.
haven't.
No.
But that's what it would sound like.
That's what it's like. Well, another sort of like musician that I wanted to ask you is, we mentioned him earlier. It's Eros Child,
Mm,
because he's now part of Teenage Fan Club, right?
yeah.
But you played sort of like drums for him as well, like in lots of his sort of
Hmm.
like songs and albums and stuff. So
Yeah.
what's it like? Was he there in Mercia last Saturday?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he
Yes.
was
So
there.
what was it like, sort of like playing with him again, and like, but not as a drummer, but as a bass player this time?
It's it, it's always being in the company of that man is it just makes everything worthwhile. Eros is one of the greatest humans in the world. I just love him. I really love him. And he was another a bit of a hero of mine. Strangely enough, I didn't get into Gorky's. I got into his solo stuff before I got into Gorky's. I read a review of his first album, Chops. It was in Mojo
Yeah.
or Select or I don't know, whatever it is. What's that other one? Uncut. One of those. And I read a review at the back of this album, Chops. And I was like, and this is before the day where you could just go onto your phone and listen to it. And I read it, and whatever the guy had written in the review, it just struck a chord. I was like, this album sounds right up my street. And I went to Mono and bought it and took it
Yeah.
home and just was instantly smitten with it. I was like, this is amazing. And I bought his next couple of albums. I remember the Miracle In, like his third album. By
Yeah.
this point, I was practically destitute, and I spent my last tenner. It was that way where I was like, that Miracle In's out today. I have a tenner left until the next payday, which was like a week's time. And I was like, well, toast and beans it is because I'm buying this. And I was always like, spent my last tenner on that record. I loved him. And a couple of years later, a friend, a kind of mutual friend of a lot of musicians, a guy called Ewan McComb, a journalist, texted and he was like, uh, I've got Eros Childs in my flat. Do you want to come and meet him? And I was like, I'll be there in 10, you know? Uh, and that was it. Just, walked in, started chatting to him, and that was friendship started straight away. And then a few years later, Norman Norman phoned and he was like, I've got a question for you. I've been doing some stuff with Eros. We've been doing a wee collaboration, which turned out to be the Johnny record.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I never knew if he was joking or not, but it was like, we asked Phil Collins if he would do it, and he said no. So the next person we thought of was you. And that's very Norman, do you know what I mean? Exactly the kind of thing. So that was my first way to working with Eros. And
Yeah.
after we did that, so I came kind of through Norman, so we recorded that in Chem 19 in maybe like 3 days or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and then I remember doing a couple of Johnny gigs a few months later. We were down in Cardiff. We were just sitting in the pub, just blethering away, and he was like, listen, I'm going into the studio after Christmas to make an album, another solo album. You fancy it? And I mean, who was going to say no to that? I'd had all the albums, and I was totally in awe of Eros, more than anyone. More than anyone. I was just
Oh
like,
wow.
we were doing that Johnny record. I was just like, I can't believe I'm in a room with this guy,
Y-
like making music, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But of course, again, he's so down to earth and he's so approachable and so friendly. That feeling, it just it kind of went away because it's a friendship. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well,
So I love
um,
it. I love it when I just hang about with them. It's just great, great.
yeah.
One of my
Well,
favorite.
Norman Blake. I was actually so like I wasn't expecting him to be that funny because, like I said, it's only recently that I found out about Teenage Fan Club. But has he always been really that funny?
Oh,
He's
aye, yeah. I mean, like I was saying to you earlier on, that's why being in fan club, which again was just like checking myself a lot. Just like, well, what am I doing on a stage with these guys? Or um, but it was easy because they
yeah,
are. It's just it's a laugh. It's a laugh, and those guys, they they're aware that they've obviously earned every second and every penny of their success, but they don't take any of it for granted. None of it.
yeah, yeah,
They're all very humble, and they know that they are there doing that, and they could, imagine having a real job when they can do that. Do you know what I mean? So, and it's a lot. I'm not saying they don't take it seriously because they do.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
They make sure that they enjoy every second of it. Do you know?
yeah. Well,
And it's just
Rudy,
be around and just it's magic. Really
yeah,
magic. Like I can't understate how magic, and that is the word. It is. You know.
yeah. Well, Rudy says that the Johnny gigs were some of her favorite gigs ever, and she also loves Eros. But I've got a question from Richie Dempsey. Oh, I'm glad that Richie, Richie, from Some Shakes. Richie said, "Who do you think is going to be Thistle's top scorer this season?"
Well, I would like it to be Brian Graham. Brian Graham. I always remember Brian Graham was always a player. He played for Wraith Rovers when Richie and I used to go to Thistle games together. We had season tickets beside each other for a few years. And Brian Graham, at the time, played for Wraith Rovers, and Wraith Rovers were our bogey team, And he was always, and I always used to be like, God, it'd be great if he played for Thistle. He's just one of these guys. And then he went to Hibs and he went to Dundee United and all the rest of it. And then a couple of years ago, he was like, Brian Graham signed for Thistle. I was like, no way, it's amazing. So I'd like it to be Brian Graham.
Right, there you go, Richie. Because I'm not really into football, so I don't know anything about.
Brian Graham.
But Simon McCaig said that Eros is a legend, so he also agrees with Rudy on the Johnny music too. So those are your collaborations with these amazing musicians, but you've also got your own bands. I mean, you've had several. I don't know if they're still going, all of them, but one of them is called the Well Greens. That's your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you tell us more about the Well Green? So is this still going? Do you still gig?
Oh yeah, it's an ongoing concern.
Ongoing concern.
And again, do you know it's funny actually because when we were doing the fan club thing, obviously them being professional musicians that have done this the whole life, do you know what I mean, or certainly the professional life, kind of hanging about with them at the weekend, I was drawing a lot of parallels to when the Wellgreen get together. They just act the same way. Do you know? All of a sudden, it's like, wow, this is just how people that enjoy themselves playing music together are. Do you know what I mean? We've been part for years, and we always just it's the same thing. It's always a laugh, and you're just kind of arsing about. But when it comes to actually playing the music, you take it seriously, but you enjoy it. Someone makes a mistake or whatever, you're just like, and then carry on. Do you know what I mean? There's none of that tenor off. you know what I mean? You're getting fined, that, you know. So yeah, Marco and I have written together for years. And the name The Well Green comes from a wee place in Killern where kids used to go basically kind of underage drink. And that's where I met him.
Oh,
Was at
right.
the Well Green. Yeah, he was the boyfriend of the big sister of one of my friends. There's only a year between us. Yeah, and I met him there. And then like 10, 12 years later, I was doing a kind of community project with young kids. Walked into the toll booth in Stirling and he was in the room. And straight away I knew him. He's got one of these, he's a very distinctive character, Marco,
Yeah.
in look and in personality. There's nobody in the world like him. And I was just straight, I was like, I know who you are. You used to go to Laura McCall, didn't you? He was like, hi. He's like, you and I met at the Well Green. And so that was it. We just ended up writing together and kind of grew arms and legs. And we got really lucky as well in that we get to play in Spain quite a lot. Well, this is just how lucky you are and how about being in the right place at the right time really is a thing. We did
Yeah.
a gig in Liverpool at the Cavern, this IPO festival. It happens every year and there's like 70 bands or something like that play over the course of a week.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
had to put it together, asked us if we would do it, so we went down and did it. Just because that'd be cool to go to Liverpool and see the Beatles Museum and stuff and play in the Cavern. That'd be quite smart. And while we were there, a band from Spain, who were also on the bill at the time, just went home and obviously saw it, went home and said to the guy that ran the record label, check these guys out, they're quite good. And a couple of weeks later, he got in touch and he was like, I see you've got 2 albums out. Can I make a compilation of those 2 and release it in Spain? So we were like, yeah, of course. Why would you say no to that? So we did. And that was it. We never really thought anything of it. And then again, cut to whatever period of time later, and he was like, do you want to come and play some gigs?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we went over and played some gigs. And people knew the songs and people were singing the words. And we can't, the 30, I would say, we can't sell 5 tickets to the 13th note over here, which is a tiny venue in Glasgow. No one knows, no one cares, But we
But
go
in Spain.
and we're playing festivals and there's like,
Yeah.
we're singing the songs. It's really weird. So every year, obviously apart from the pandemic, but every year for about 5 or 6 years, we get asked to go and play festivals in Spain, and it's amazing. But the writing thing, magic. Marco is just kind of like Norman in that way, where he's just always really funny and a great guy to be around and really infectious. And I just always think, God, I'm really lucky to have been in some sort of place at the right time for this all to happen.
Well,
Obviously, I'm not shit as well, but I still could be anyone.
Yeah, well, the Well Green said there is new Well Green music on the way soon. It's a promise.
Oh, it's been in the making for about 10 years. Yeah. Well, here's the thing too. So, like, cause everyone's busy, guys. You know what I mean? And Danny lives through in Edinburgh. He's got a couple of kids. We've got Jude now.
Yeah.
Jim works away a lot, and Marco's involved in hundreds of different. Can't speak anymore. Hundreds of different projects. So we have been probably something like 6 or 7 days it's taken us to record the songs we have recorded, but those 6 or 7 days has happened over the period of about 5 years, 6 years. So it's just one of
But they said a promise, so there will be a new music. So new music on the way. So
getting everyone together in the room at the same time is just quite often a nightmare. But it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, Michael Gibb said Mon the Shire.
Mon the Shire.
I don't actually know what when people say Mon the something. What
come
does
on.
It? Yeah, what does it actually mean? It's like, come on.
Come on, Mon the Shire. So as in like, 3 cheers for the Shire.
Oh right.
Hip hip hooray for Killern.
So that's why I asked, because it's like, so is it like with the Jamaicans when they say Yamo? Is it like the same as that, which is like, come on, or something like that?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, from the wild green to, I don't know if this is. I mean, it sounds serious as well, but
Oh yeah.
lobster man, lobster.
Right. So that's then
Doctor
another guy.
Doctor Cosmo,
hmm
Doctor Cosmo's tape lab.
hmm
So, what was that about? That lobster man
That was about
song?
a lobster who makes love to a full-grown man and saves the day. I'll tell you why that song was written. That song was written because Joe Kane, again, another guy I have learned an incredible amount from, from a writing point of view, but also from a recording point of view. Everything I learned how to like produce and record. I've got my own setup and stuff, and I
Yeah.
learned most of it from him. Just watching him doing stuff. He's an absolute genius. You don't usually use that word, that's a word not to be taken lightly, but I would properly say that he is one of them. Musical. Incredible. But
And
Joe's
things.
also off his head. He's completely nuts. So the thing was with the Dr. Cosmos Tape Lab,
Yeah.
the first incarnation of that, when we first started doing gigs, Joe had this great idea to just like buy shitey animal suits from eBay and go on stage wearing them. So I was dressed as a rabbit the first time, and he was
Yeah.
dressed as a bumblebee. And then a couple of weeks later, I went to his house, and he was like, "Wait till you see what I have found." And he brought this, and it was a lobster costume. So we both put it on, and we were just like, "This is amazing! This is the funniest thing ever!" Like buckling up. And he was like, "Well, we have to write a song now. We have to write this lobster. It has to be a superhero," and that's how it came about. Inspiration, inspiration it comes from anywhere, doesn't it? So there was
I
the
actually
inspiration for that.
watched the video.
Joe spent about £3 on a shitty lobster costume, and it ended up being.
I watched the video of Lobster Man. I thought that guy is so funny. And
Brilliant,
also
isn't it?
found out that Dr. Cosmos Tape Lab is sort of like done a collaboration with BMX Bandits. So it's almost
Mhm.
like you're collaborating with yourself. It's like you being
I
in big.
never thought of that. You're right. That's it. I'm now caught in one of those loops, some sort of vortex where there's a parallel universe somewhere where yeah, like a book or something. I don't know. But yeah,
Rudy
that's
said
right.
that, yeah. Rudy
Never
said that she
thought of
loves
it
the
like
well
that.
green. So Mon the well green, she said. Marco and
On the wheel
Stu said,
green. I love the whale green too. I really love it. And in that other parallel universe that I've just mentioned, we hang about every day. You know,
yeah.
that would be a dream to see those four boys in the same room every single day.
Oh,
You know,
so good. Well, and there's another one called Pound Store Riot. I
oh yeah,
couldn't actually see a lot of sort of like
no,
information about Pound Store Riot, but
well
is
again,
this
if it
another
is,
one of yours? Another, yeah.
that's also how that came about was a very interesting. Well, only interesting to me, probably not interesting to anyone else, but I'm going to tell you anyway. But we went. I was with my good lady wife, carpet shopping, as you do when you're married. You go carpet shopping.
Yeah.
Uh, so we were going through the whole. Do you like this one? Do you like this one? I was like, I like them all, darling. Yep, you just. I'm fine with whatever carpet we have. But anyway, ended up on just like kind of looking at Twitter, um, when I probably should have been paying attention to which carpet we were going to be getting. But anyway, looking through Twitter, and this guy Ash Cook, who I hadn't met at this point, but I was following on Twitter because there was a connection with him and Eros. He was a Welsh musician from, I think he stays in Bethesda, which is kind of like the Welsh Bells Hill. Like a lot of bands,
Yeah.
super furries, and a lot of those kind of established bands come from this wee place, Bethesda. Anyway, he had uh, he was tweeting that he'd just written this EP, and he was thinking about calling it Double Denim. Now, at the time, I happened to be wearing double denim. I was standing with a denim jacket and a pair of denim flares. This is maybe about 8 or 9 years ago, when probably flares. I mean, flares ever been cool? To me, they're always, but I don't know if they are or not anyway. So I was like, that's amazing. I'm actually wearing double denim just now. So I got Daniela to take a picture of me standing in between loads of rolls of carpets. Just sort of replicate the stance because I remember it. Kind of doing this with double denim and my vintage 70s thistle top on, I have to add, Richie. And I just tweeted it to him. I was like, I'm wearing double denim now. And he sent me a message back saying, can I use that as the cover? So I was like, charge on, mate. That's fine by me. And then he emailed and he was like, cool. Nice to meet you in Cyberland. Do you want to collaborate sometime? So I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I hadn't met him. We never met each other for ages
Yeah.
afterwards. So we started just sending, emailing files to each other. Here's a drum loop, go and stick some guitar on that.
Yeah.
Or I'd be like, I'd maybe have, one of us would like kind of roughly write a song or whatever and then send it over. And then it was almost a bit like songwriting chess. Do you know what I mean? Postal
Yeah.
chess with songwriting.
Yeah.
Great fun. And it was that way where, like, for weeks, it was really exciting. We're like, is he going to send something tonight? And you would open it up and you'd be like, whoa, I wouldn't have done that. That's really cool. Or it would go in some direction and then you would add to that and then send it back. And that's how that album came about, Pound Store Riot. Great fun. And there's always been tentative plans to do another one. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we started to, and it just sort of fizzled out with one of those things. Probably me. I'm always juggling loads of stuff. Not so much now, but certainly back then it was getting to the point when I was like, things are going to have to give.
Quite a lot. Yeah. Yeah. But are you still in touch with him or?
Aye. If you again back to Cyber World, if there's a post up or whatever, again I love all his albums. His stuff's great,
Yeah.
So when he posts some stuff up, I'll that's amazing. Just, send him a message or whatever, or like share it or whatever. Like to spread the word of him. Pulco. I don't think the kind of Pulco thing doesn't happen so much now, but Pulco, his Bandcamp page, he's got something like 30 odd albums, and they're all worth checking out. They're really cool.
wow.
It's all DIY stuff. He does it all in the house, and some of it's
Yeah.
totally out there. And in the way that kind of like R. Stevie Moore, I don't know if you know R. Stevie Moore, but to me, he's a bit like the Welsh R. Stevie Moore, this kind of pioneer of DIY music that's just great. Beautiful pop music, incredible melodies, great chords, kind of interspersed with like absolute noise terror, madness, and like spoken word and stuff. It's really cool. Taking risks and just being like, this is an extension of me and I'm putting it out, and I love that. So he's a cool guy, Ash. I've since met him maybe 2 or 3 times, and I'm happy to say that in the flesh he is as cool as he is on Twitter.
Cool. Well, yeah, I will sort of like check it out. But
Yes.
talking about sort of like Bandcamp and being doing solo things. You're also a solo performer. You've got your own. Like, this is really good because it's you call it Kid, which is of course that's your last name, but you spell it. It's all like capital K and then a small I and then capital letters D and D, which is really, I think, and the logo itself is so cool. I really like that one. And I've actually ordered a copy of Where Are the Strange People?
Have you?
From Pretty Olivia, and I was
Amazing.
hoping that it would get here before the interview, so at least I can sort of like have it as to promote the
Thank you
interview.
very much. That's really nice.
But I think it won't be here until maybe another couple of weeks or something. Because is it coming from Spain or France? Or something?
Yeah, well, so that was so Javi is the guy that I was telling you about, the Spanish label that put out the Wellgreen record. And actually I'd made that album and I sent it to him actually just to be like, what do you think of this? And do you know anyone that might be interested in putting it out? He just runs a very small label from his house. He's not. It's almost like a kind of hobby, almost, but he
Yeah.
takes it seriously, obviously. But I didn't at any point expect him to be like, "Oh, I'll do it." I thought, he'll know loads of people, and he might be able to put me in touch with someone.
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, I love it. I'll put it out." So yeah, so that's kind of how that happened. But the smaller thing's a funny thing because that didn't really. Again, that just sort of came out almost out of necessity. Again, going back to the kind of well-being thing of trying to find time for us all to be together, and it was just really difficult. And all the time, I'm coming up with stuff and coming up with ideas, and I end up having tons of them. And I was like, "Ugh, do you know what? Some of these aren't even really that suitable for like well-being songs, and I've just got all these songs all of a sudden. I'll just chuck it out."
So
Do you
is it
know?
just
I
you
didn't.
playing
Really,
everything, or do you have
yeah,
other
just everything
musicians?
in the, no, everything's just done in my bedroom or in here now. Not at the
Yeah.
moment because we're in the process of the living room's getting decorated, like completely torn up, floors and fires and windows and everything. So that room is empty. This is why this is sitting here now, because that should belong in the living room, and this couch belongs in the spare room. And so this was a wee kind of music studio thing for me. It's like the back porch of the house.
Yeah.
Uh, but at the moment, it's not. It's just kind of dumping ground while everything gets
Yeah.
renovated, if you like. But that's cool. A lot of the time now, I actually like just to mess about on Ableton with synthesizers. A lot of the stuff I'm doing at the moment uh, is miles away from what I would usually do. I'm going to buy a
Yeah.
cape. I'm going to see if I can find a cape on eBay and just like wear it when I play my synth.
But Kids Bandcamp actually got loads of stuff in there.
Yeah.
Graham Marston actually made me aware of another one called Twinkle and the Big Whoosh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a CD and a book. So the book was written by somebody else.
The book was written
But
by a teacher that I used to work with.
oh, I see. But the music, that's yours. So like that's yeah,
Yeah. So it was this lady. So I used to work in an ASN school up in Stirling with Marco. We used to go in every Wednesday. ASN, additional support needs. So there was young kids that had, maybe were like, like some of them were autistic, some of them were at various stages of needing additional
yeah.
support. Okay? And we used to go in there and just write songs with them on a Wednesday morning. And the kind of learning support teachers would join in. They loved it. They would love it when we came in. It was always like writing songs about, chickens that lived on the moon and all this kind of anything
Oh,
went. It was really
yeah.
cool. And Angela one day was like, I've written a children's book for my grandchildren. I was like, that's really cool. And then like the next week she brought it in. So I took it, and it was just in like sheets of paper. They hadn't actually written the book, it hadn't been published or anything like that. It was just like this sort of,
Yeah.
she'd written it on her computer or whatever. So she brought it in, and oh, do you know what? I've just noticed. Look at this. Hold on. I just out of the corner of my eye there when I was just about to carry that story on. The Pound Store Riot CD.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting up there. Not that I was listening to myself or anything like that. So anyway, I took this story home and I read it. And this is a really nice story. So I took it back into the week after, and I was like, this would be really cool if you could do this thing where if you get it published, you could have you could narrate it and have music going on in the background or whatever. She was like, that'd be a cool idea. Do you know anyone that would do that? And I was like, well, I'll have a shot if you want. So that's what that was. So I took the story back home, and then kind of marked out where I thought chapters would be in the story, and then wrote a song for each chapter, and that's how that came about. So she
Oh,
wrote this children's book, and I just sort of basically tried to almost write I felt like writing a film soundtrack, but for a book.
yeah,
Really
yeah,
cool, good, great fun.
yeah.
At
Well, I'll
cool.
probably sort of like see. Yeah, well check out the Bandcamp of Kid, and then
Yeah.
there's quite a lot of actually. I did check it out today, and there's quite a lot of sort of like amazing stuff in there. So,
Mm.
but do you do gigs? Do you sort of like
As
do
me, as a
yeah
solo,
as Kid?
I have done. I don't
Yeah,
go looking for them. If someone asks me if I want to play, then I'll try and say yes. I'll try and force myself to do it. It's funny, I
Yeah.
don't mind. I'll go on a stage with anyone and not think twice about it. But when it's me on my own, it feels a bit like
Yeah.
doing, those nightmares you would have where you're doing gym in your pants. Feels a bit like that. So yeah, I love it. I love doing it after I've done it. In retrospect, I'm like, oh, that was actually all right. I quite enjoyed that. I should do more. But then as soon as I'm asked to do it, I'm like, well, I'll say yes because I have to force myself to say yes and then spend
Yeah.
the day going, why did I agree to this? You know what I mean? Which is really weird. Is that, yeah. And it's like I say, I enjoy it and I love writing songs and I love recording. But when it comes to actually performing, I'm not that into it.
So, yeah.
But I love performing with other people.
With other people,
Yeah,
yeah.
the Belgian thing, I mean, they're 50% as much my songs as they are Marco's,
Yeah.
apart from what Danny wrote, obviously. And again, I don't think twice about it. I love it. I would do it every day if I could. But there's something about when it's your own, and I'm in the middle. Don't forget, this is a Ask the Drummer podcast, and I'm a drummer because I like being at the back. And no one's looking at me, really. Do you know what I mean? You occasionally get a glance. Oh, look at that guy's drumming with his mouth open. Or he's drumming like this. Do you know what I mean? But actually, like, kind of being up at the front and having the focus on you. Nah, you're all right. So,
well, of course, the first time I saw you play was at Straven. I'm also like thinking it's only I found out that it's called Straven because I used to say Strathaven,
yeah,
and it's all like apparently that's how you tell when people are actually from there because
yeah.
they
There's
say
lots of
Straven.
Scottish places like that. Are you from Kirkcaldy? No, I'm from Kirkcaldy.
But anyway, so that was the first time that I actually saw you, and I wasn't even sure at the time because you were with Douglas McIntyre and you're as the Kingfishers.
Hmm.
Yeah. So when after your set, I spoke to Chris Quinn of the Orchids, and I was so like said to him, I said, Chris. That's Stuart. What's his last name? Because Douglas McIntyre actually introduced you as Stuart, and I was all like thinking, "Oh my god, is that Stuart?"
Is it really him?
And then, so I asked Chris Quinn, and he said, "Yeah, it's Stuart Kid," and then it's like, "Oh my god." Oh my god, is that him? And then I looked for
Because
you.
you wouldn't be able to get me to shut up about 2 weeks later.
Well, I looked for you after the gig, and you're already gone. So
My wee boy Jude wasn't well that night.
yeah. So
I
yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
said to Danielle, I was like, I'll play and I'll just come straight up the road because he wasn't. It's just a wee flu thing, You know what kids are like when they're in P1, they all swap bogies with each other and all that. You want to try that? So we picked something up, and
Yeah.
he just went well. So I was like, I didn't want to be,
Yeah, I was really glad that you did the Paisley gig as well as the Kingfishers. It was actually James Hackett from the Orchids who mentioned it to me. He said, "Oh, they're playing there," so that's why I sent you a message and said,
Well, I wasn't supposed to be doing that. That was supposed to be Sugartown, which is Douglas.
"Oh
Agreed
right, yeah."
Gwen, but Gwen got really ill. I don't know if she'd been swapping bogies with my wee boy or whatever, but he wasn't well. And Douglas told me that day, and he was like, "Listen, are you about?" Like SOS. And I was like, "Yeah, of course. I love Douglas. He's a great guy.
Yeah, oh, he's amazing. Yeah, he's
He really
really
is.
good.
We
Yeah,
worked together at Riverside too, so yeah, it was a no-brainer. He was like, Can you do this tonight?" Like, of course, absolutely. He
so
actually
it's the
asked me as well if I would do something, and I said
yeah.
yes. And then about half an hour later, I was sitting there going, "Wait a minute, I've got classes I need to put together for the college thing, and if I don't do it tonight, I'm never going to get to do it because the class is on Thursday." So I had to phone him, and I was like, "Actually, I'm going to not. I maybe can't do this tonight." But I felt kind of bad about it, but I'd feel worse if I go in on Thursday night and all these students are looking at me like, "What are you going to teach today?" And I was like, "Do anyone know how to make falafel? We're going to talk about that today."
So are you a member of the Kingfishers? Is this sort of like a band that
Well,
Douglas McIntyre?
when the last few times we've done gigs as the Kingfishers, it's just been Buffalo Springfield songs. But in the middle of lockdown, when the first restriction was lifted, we did go into the studio, Douglas and I,
Yeah.
and record a whole load of original songs. He just sat and played the 12-string guitar, and I just played the drums along with it. And then we got Davy Scott involved, and Davy's added his fairy dust over the top of it. And Douglas's daughter, Amelia, who's an amazing
Yeah.
vocalist, did some stuff too. I'm not sure if anyone else is on it, but yeah, there is a Kingfishers record, which I think is going to be coming out at some point.
Yeah. Douglas
Oh,
McIntyre said next year or something.
yeah. Great
Yeah.
songs too. They're really cool.
Yeah.
Very much in the kind of Buffalo Springfield sort of love forever changes sort of idea. That was like a kind of template. So a
Wow.
lot of the time, we're like, what do you want me to do on the drums? And they just be like, forever changes. Okay, I got you.
Oh wow. Well, we really look forward to that, the Kingfisher's new album. Or
Yeah,
hopefully coming out next year.
yeah.
But right, you mentioned about teaching, because when you're not on stage, when you're not playing, you're a lecturer.
Imagine that. Imagine,
Yeah.
take a minute to imagine.
But where do you find the time? It was sort of like,
All the brain cells.
do you, do you even go to sleep? It's sort of like,
Did I even
so
go to school?
I mean, seriously, how do you juggle all these? So like playing for everybody, and also, you know,
Yeah,
teaching and
you just do. I think. Do you know what it is? I think it's probably because I love it. You know,
yeah,
I continually remind myself that I am really lucky to have these opportunities. You know, so yeah, I love it, and it's just it's not easy, but in a lot of ways it kind of is, and I think that is probably because it's something that I love doing and something that I've done now for 20 plus years.
yeah, yeah,
And I don't think necessarily that I've been asked to do these things because of my technical gift, because that doesn't exist. But I think it's more to do with the experience that I've had and that I'm a big believer in paying it forward. Like I say, I've been really lucky. And people like Francis and Douglas and Paul Quinn and Finlay MacDonald and Norman and Raymond and Jim and all these guys, they have all given me opportunities. So it's up to me now to share that with people so that they can, young people, so they can see how someone like me can do it. So that's easy.
oh,
You know what I mean? But I'm not. You know how you get these like kind of old Italian ladies that won't share their secret recipe for
yeah.
something.
Or
That's
KFC.
not for me. It's like if you want to know, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
You know, that's
The
not to say
same.
I'm right. That's the first thing I go into as well to these classes. Like kind of
Yeah,
do songwriting module and stuff. It's like I don't have the answers here. I'm going to tell you what I know about it, and I'm going to tell you what I've learned about it, and how much I love it and stuff like that. But if I was a million selling successful songwriter, I wouldn't be here. I would be in, you know, Malibu. Actually, I probably wouldn't be in Malibu, but I would have a big house, and I would probably be pissed at this time of day.
that's so.
You know?
Right. Well, before I ask, because I know it's already so like we've been chatting for an hour and a half, but I just
Shepherd's
wanted
Group.
to say, Ruthie said that she actually got a couple of polka albums. She said that she discovered him via the Welsh band. I don't know how you pronounce it. Why Newell?
In
Enul?
Enul, I think it's called. Yeah.
Enul? Okay, Enul. Also from Bethesda. And Ashes
Yeah.
Missus is an amazing knitter. That's from
That's
Ruthie.
true. That's
Yeah.
true. I've never met her, but I follow her on Instagram, and they are incredible creations.
Yeah. Okay, so because this is Astro Drummer, and I know you're doing loads of things. I think we're probably doing more. You're probably more a guitarist than a drummer by the sound.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's good to know that your first love was drumming, and
yeah,
that's actually the first so like
for
instrument
sure.
that you play. Yeah. Um, can I just ask you, do you have any drumming heroes?
Ringo,
Ring. Yeah. Oh wow.
Ringo, and as I said earlier, Paul, Paul
Yeah.
McCartney.
Yeah. Paul
He was an
McCartney. Yeah.
amazing drummer.
Yeah.
But Dave Grohl made me want to be a musician. So I would have to say Dave Grohl.
Oh wow.
Nirvana was my first love. The first proper, like, whoa, what is this? You know, you get
Yeah.
those moments, and it's funny, everyone says that. Everyone that's a musician says, oh, I had those moments where you're just like, whoa. And that was mine, for sure. Sitting in the back of Gavin Monroe's mum's car, and
Yeah.
it put on Nevermind, and it was like the fucking car exploded into life. You know what I mean? And it was like, I can't really explain it, but I just knew straight away. I was like, I want more of that. You know,
Wow.
I used to
Well.
drive mental because I ended up copying the tape from his tape, and in my bedroom, I used to put encyclopedias out on the bed, and that was my drum kit. But I used to also get like biscuit tin lids with a bit of string and hang them from the ceiling, and just play with chopsticks on the bed. And if I hit the biscuit tin lid too hard, the sellotape would bring the paint off the ceiling. So my ceiling was always covered in patches, and it used to drive my mum. How are we going to stay at that?
Well.
There you go.
Yeah.
I,
Well, talking about Nirvana, because this is like, um, because I'm originally from the Philippines. I mean, I wasn't born here, so I didn't really get to know David Bowie until the '80s. Bowie with
okay,
Let's Dance.
okay.
Um, so when Nirvana did "The Man Who Sold the World," when they did it, so like the MTV
Mm-hmm.
acoustic thing, and I really thought that it was them who did it. Was so like
First,
the
yeah.
original of "The
It
Man
could
Who
have been,
Sold."
couldn't it? Because it's that good.
Yeah, yeah, it was absolutely amazing. Until my husband said to me, "That's a David Bowie song." I was like, "Really?"
I
I
actually
didn't.
don't think it's as good. I think the Nirvana versions.
Yeah,
So
that's
again, a lot of that is I think because the drums are they're just behind it and they're just doing the thing. Whereas on the original version, there's all these big huge fills here and there, and it's kind of like, is that
yeah,
even
yeah,
there? It's distracting. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. So that was like my introduction to sort of like the uh pre 1980s David Bowie. Because
Hmm.
since then he sort of like introduced me to all these sort of like older David Bowie sort of like records, which is just really really good. So I've asked you this before, so but which for you are you the happiest playing the drums or the guitar or singer songwriter or
I'm happiest in a room with people playing music. Doesn't matter what I'm
oh,
doing. Do you
oh
know that's
yeah,
that's where I'm happiest. When you've got four pals or five pals and you're in a room and you're creating something that uh, hasn't been created before and won't be created again in some way. Do you know what I mean? Even if you're playing a song that you've played a million times, you've not there's something there that happened that time that won't have happened again, or you're capturing something. And you're in a
yeah.
room with people and you're creating some kind of magic. That's when I'm happiest. Just playing with people.
I think
Collaboration is the best.
I think the sort of like similar thing is the reason why I go to gigs, even though I've seen the band like with McCad, I've seen it a few times, but I still want to go every single time. It's because every gig is different.
Yeah.
It's like for me, there's always something that's so like maybe the songs could be so like the set list is similar to the previous one, but there's
Yeah.
always something different. There's always so like something there that didn't happen the previous gigs, or
Yeah. And also on the way to the gig and after as well.
yeah,
It's all part of the event, the whole thing about the night itself.
yeah.
There's
Well,
something about it, isn't there?
do you still go to a lot of gigs, or only when you're playing?
No, no. I went to see Hot Chip a couple of weeks ago. They played in Glasgow, and we went with my wife and some of her friends, and it was just magic. Really
Yeah.
cool. I do maybe don't go as much as I used to, because I don't have the time. I mean, actually, I was pretty gutted because I really wanted to go and see the Pictus Trail last night. He played in town, but again, same thing. I was like, "God, if I don't do this thing for the college on Thursday, I'm literally going
Yeah.
to be talking about falafel to these guys, man. So I'm going to just have to do something."
But when you go to like gig, do you look at the drummer and see what he's sort of like
Oh
doing?
yeah, I mean, yeah, I like to watch the drummer, but I'll check it all out. I actually,
All the musicians.
strangely enough, I love the bass. But see when I'm watching a gig, I like to watch the bass player
All
because
right.
they're never appreciated in the way, and the bass is so important, and it is so no one really talks about the bass, and the bass is where it is. Everyone's the drums are the foundation. It's not. It's the bass. For
Oh,
me, for me, it's the bass every time. I love it.
well, they always say this drummer is like the glue
Yeah,
to
yeah.
like the.
The drummer and the bass player have to. They have to be doing. You have to be talking the same language, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And I love watching bass players quite often because they are the ones that are just like, well, no one's looking at me. Do you know what I mean? Unless the bass player at the front or whatever. But there's this not a stigma or something like that. But there's like you get drummer jokes. But actually, I think a lot of the time it's like they don't. The bass player's just a sort of quiet, unassuming guy that stands there and just
yeah.
sort of like he's only playing four strings. It can't
Well,
be hard. But actually, for me, it's the hardest. If you play a wrong chord on a guitar, sometimes you cover it up and you don't really notice. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
You play a bum note on the bass, as I did the other day.
And then everybody's so.
Everyone's like, "What the fuck was that?"
On Facebook, actually, I've seen quite a lot of bass player jokes, and I see a lot of drummer jokes as well. But
You get good
that's
bass
bass
face as
for
well.
you. So,
You definitely get
well,
good bass face.
yeah, that's true. Right. This is my last question now, because I have to let you go somewhere.
Had enough
So,
for me.
what would be your advice? Do you have any advice to sort of like aspiring musicians, drummers and guitarists or bass player and stuff? So,
Yeah, and it's not musical. It's not musical advice either. It's just like, do you know, actually, I'm going to have to use a bad word, even though I have actually probably inadvertently sworn quite a few times. But the best advice you can give to anyone is don't be a dick. That's it. Honestly, if someone asks you to come and play on the record or turn up to a gig or whatever, it's like, be sound, be approachable, involve yourself in it, embrace it, and just take
yeah.
it for what it is. No one's asking you to change the world. Don't get totally uptight about it. Just be like, this is awesome. Because if you weren't getting asked to do this, you would be doing something that you would much rather not be doing. Do you know what I
And
mean?
this is the reason why they call you adorable, because you are adorable. you are.
Yeah, I'm just going to get my wife in so you can tell her this, right? Because she won't believe it. Pick up a wee boy. So,
Well, thank you, thank you so much, Stu. I mean, I'm really glad
you,
that you said yes to this, because I thought, of course, when you said that you'll be playing with Teenage Fan Club, that you can't really do Ask the Drummer that
that's right.
Sunday.
It was supposed to be last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I just thought, yeah, of course. I mean, this is
And
Teenage
thank you
Fan.
for understanding about that too, because I know it was just like a few days before, and I was like, I'm still getting a lot of these songs wrong, and I'm going to need some more practice.
Right. I've got one more question from you, Lynch.
All right.
Can I ask you about when he played with Ian McCulloch in Glasgow? You played with Ian McCulloch?
Ian McCulloch, yeah, I did. I can't remember the year, but yeah, again, that came through Francis, and that was on bass too, actually. Like the
All
day,
right.
2 days before the gig, when Francis just phoned, and it was like, Ian McCullough's coming up. His management, I think, have asked me to play, and they need a bass player. He just wanted a pickup band, and at the time, I was playing the bass in the BMX Bandits, so he was like, "Do you want to do
Yeah.
it?" So I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I met him, and he gave me a CD of the songs that Ian McCulloch wanted to play, and I had to go home and learn them. And I went home and learned them all kind of overnight, turned up to the gig and we didn't play any of. I think we played maybe 2 that were on the CD, and the rest they weren't the songs that were on the disc, but they were all like, it was all cover versions. So it was all just like, I'm Waiting for the Man, a couple of Doors ones. People Are Strange maybe was one of them.
Yeah.
Stuff that fortunately for me I knew, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, that was it. He never said a word. He just came in with his shades on, did his thing, and then kind of got led by the hand out of the venue by some. The only thing I remember about him was that he always had a drink in his hand, and it was a different drink every time. And I remember thinking, God, that guy must be a machine. It's like a vodka and orange, then a pint of Guinness, and then like a shot of whiskey, and then it was just like, this guy's still standing. This is amazing. Just and he was great too. He was like his vocals were brilliant. It was really cool. It was good fun. But the only thing he said to either me or Francis at the end, because it was Francis that came up, and at the end he was killing himself laughing because we finished with the Killing Moon, and at the end he went over to Francis, and I think Francis was expecting him to be like, "Oh, thanks for doing that," and he went over to Francis and went, "What a song that is, eh?" And he
Really?
Yeah, brilliant.
Well, you mentioned you wanted to say something, but I'm not going to. So, because it said so, McCulloch was what you said. Don't be. I'm actually,
the guy, I didn't know what to expect. I actually, to be honest with you, hadn't even heard Echo and the Bunnymen song. So for me, and actually I think because it was Shug that's asking about a lot of those boys from the coast and from that, they'd all kind of grown up with Echo and the Bunnymen. So when I'd said to them, they're like, "What, are you playing with Ian McCulloch?" I had no idea who the guy was. No idea.
oh,
I didn't know
really?
who he. No, I didn't know. It wasn't until
my
afterwards that I kind of went and found. I was like, "Oh, okay, that was probably to some people a big deal," but I had no idea. No idea.
I'm actually going to see Ian McCulloch in October in Antwerp. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard
when he plays the Killing Moon, just shout at him, "What a song that is!" See what he does. He might lower his glasses and go, "Thanks, Francis."
Well, talking about what about Mick Head? You've heard of Mick Head before. I know that it's sad that you didn't get to see him.
Yeah.
Because you had to leave early.
Yeah.
But you have.
I think that's just like possibly like an earlier generational thing or something. Because again, I don't know a lot of his stuff, and everyone that talks about it is like, "You love him, you should," And he's just one of those guys I've never kind of got around to checking out, and I know that I probably would love him. But yeah, I keep going back to the Beatles. There's this running joke with all the students. They're like, "How long is it going to be before he mentions the Beatles today?"
Well, and everybody
loves. I was like, right, okay, guys, just bear with me here because I'm sorry, but not sorry. I'm about to talk about Revolver for the next. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to talk about songwriting, why would you not talk about the Beatles? They were the blueprint for everything, really, weren't they?
Yeah,
They obviously had the blueprint, but they took that blueprint and made it bluer. I think you need to let me go now. I need to let you go now. I think is more of
the. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh my god, that is so good. I'm really looking forward to getting that vinyl. Where are the strange people and actually listening to it?
I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, hopefully I'll get to see you again because I love Glasgow. I mean, I think it's one of those like a really amazing place. So I will go there quite a lot. So hopefully
me too. I go there as much as I can.
Hopefully see you again soon.
Yeah, hope so. It's really nice to talk. It's really nice to meet you as well the other week.
Oh, thank you.
I'm glad you got in.
Thank you so much. And that's it. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you said yes. And yeah, have well. I'm not. I normally say enjoy the rest of the weekend, but it's still a weekday. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm
yeah.
working tonight
So
as well. And enjoy the next 2 hours, and then I have to go to work, which I will enjoy because making music with
yeah.
kids is great. But yeah,
Well, have a good week then. So
I will. You too.
I'll see you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you. Nice one.
Bye.
Cheerio.
Bye. See you. Bye. Oh my God, that was so good. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live. He's such an amazing person. And like I said, when Carrie said that he's adorable, I definitely agree. He really is adorable. So hopefully I'll go back to Glasgow and see him again perform as a drummer this time and not as a guitarist, because that's what as the drummer is about. I'm really sort of like wanting to see, I want to see him play the drums, hopefully soon. So yeah, thank you once again, and as always, love music, love life, and love drummers, because I think they are the best. This, you've seen Stuart Kid there. He really is. He really is the best. So thank you so much. Bye everyone. See you all again soon. Bye.